What you heard was, Suge is coming! Suge is coming! I swear to God, cameras are falling, dancers are running.
Everybody, they was running, dropped shit. Like, man, everybody going out.
And he had some Mexican niggas. Now, we from New York. You ain't never seen a nigga with a tattoo on his forehead. This is when I knew Eminem was real. He's like, I don't give a fuck, man. Well, I'm like, damn, Eminem is a real nigga.
A release date connected to Suge Knight's name started running through the streets, and the whole rap community started moving different. Names quietly disappeared off Death Row era reissues. Podcast episodes got pulled without explanation. Interview requests about the 1990s era started getting turned down. Artists who used to share stages with Suge were not the first ones to comment on anything publicly. Something was in the water, and everybody could feel it. The number floating around was the summer of 2026. People were saying Suge Knight was about to walk. Here is the truth about all of it. And the real story is actually more interesting than the rumor. First, who we are talking about. Marion Hugh Knight Jr. Suge Knight built Death Row Records from the ground up into one of the most powerful labels the rap game ever produced. Tupac, Snoop, Dre. The entire West Coast hip-hop movement of the 1990s ran through that machine. Suge ran it with an iron grip. In January 2015, a hit-and-run incident outside Tam's Burgers in Compton left a local businessman named Terry Carter dead at the scene. A film consultant named Clee Sloan was struck and survived. Suge was behind the wheel of a Ford F-150 Raptor. In 2018, he entered a no-contest plea, and a judge handed him 28 years. He has been at the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego ever since. His official parole eligibility date is October of 2034, which would put him at 69 years old the day he walks out. That is the baseline. Now, let's talk about what started the rumor, and why it caught so much fire. Reggie Wright Jr., the former head of security at Death Row Records and the closest public voice to Suge's situation, came on camera and broke down what he called a two-part legal and political strategy that had been building for months. He confirmed that Suge's legal team had officially filed a motion. Real paperwork, real weight, landing on the desk of a Los Angeles County judge. He said it was not a media stunt. He believed the filing had genuine legs. The first part of the strategy involved California's Proposition 57 credit system. Voters passed Prop 57 in 2016, giving the state prison system authority to hand out credits for good behavior, educational programming, milestone completions, and verified rehabilitation work. Those credits stack, and in the right situation, they can knock serious time off a sentence. A viral video broke the math down for a massive audience. 8 years already served, maximum credit windows applied, medical release provisions layered in, and landed on a projected exit date that pointed straight at the back half of 2026. The video hit hundreds of thousands of views in the first weekend. Rap podcasts ran with it. The number was already embedded in the conversation before any outlet pushed back on the math. The second part of Reggie's strategy was the political play. Suge Knight spent years building connections with power players in California. Lawyers, lobbyists, old-school political figures who were running the state long before the current administration. Reggie went on camera and named Willie Brown directly. Brown was the mayor of San Francisco and served as Speaker of the California State Assembly for 15 years straight. He was the political architect behind two of the biggest Democratic names to come out of California in the last decade. Reggie's claim was specific. Suge did significant favors for Willie Brown back in the day. Legal ones, personal ones, the kind that leave a debt on the books that does not just disappear. His argument was that the right pressure applied, through the right relationships, could reach the parole board, the governor's clemency office, or the broader California justice apparatus in ways that would not show up in any court filing. On the legal side, Reggie confirmed that David Kenner was attached to the motion. If that name means something to you, it should. Kenner was Suge Knight's counsel through the entire Death Row Records run. He was in the room during the biggest hip-hop legal battles the 1990s produced. He does not come out of retirement for filings that have no shot. Reggie said plainly that Kenner showing up on this paperwork told everybody paying attention that the argument was real. Attached to the filing was a medical file that had been stacking up for years. Vision loss building over time from untreated conditions, diabetic complications. And one detail most fans never followed closely: a bullet fragment still lodged in Suge's skull from a nightclub shooting in Las Vegas years earlier. When a filing comes in with documented vision loss, documented diabetes complications, and a bullet fragment sitting in the head, California judges have historically opened the door to compassionate release conversations. The medical lane is one of the few that can jump the standard parole eligibility timeline entirely. On top of all that, Suge's team started pushing a new claim that reframes the entire moral weight of the 2015 incident. His position now is that what happened at Tam's Burgers was not a reckless accident he initiated, it was an ambush set on him. He has gone on record claiming a $20,000 check was written and passed off before the day of the crash, paid to a man from the west side of Compton who was allegedly hired to take Suge out in that parking lot. Reggie confirmed on camera that the check exists as physical evidence. If that angle picks up steam inside the appeals process, the entire legal foundation of that 2018 no contest plea starts to shake. A plea entered under the understanding of a reckless incident reads completely different when the man who took it now says he was defending his own life from a paid hit. That is the full picture of what the streets were working with. Now here is what the paperwork actually says. In March 2025, Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Laura F. Privet denied Suge Knight's motion to withdraw his 2018 no contest plea. The judge did not buy the argument. She ruled on the record that the petitioner was not as isolated or helpless as the filing suggested, and that the motion should have been raised years earlier. The withdrawal claim was found to be lacking in sincerity. The 28-year bid stayed on the books exactly as handed down. The Prop 57 math that the viral video ran does not apply to Suge's file. The credit expansion system works real differently for inmates convicted of violent felonies. Voluntary manslaughter falls squarely inside the violent felony category in California. On top of that, Suge's sentence carries a third strike enhancement, which cuts down the credit windows he can qualify for even further. The maximum credit projections that circulated online apply to a category that his conviction does not sit in. The October 2034 parole eligibility date has not moved. It is not a rumor. It is the date consistently documented across court reporting and public records, and it has not been altered by any filed motion, court order, or CDCR announcement. The civil side also closed in April 2025. Suge Knight and the family of Terry Carter reached a $1.5 million settlement in the wrongful death lawsuit after a 2022 mistrial and years of litigation. The Carter family got paid. That settlement had no impact on the criminal sentence. So if no prison release happened, what actually sent the rap community into preparation mode? A book. On August 4, 2026, Suge Knight is dropping his memoir through Simon & Schuster's Gallery Books imprint. The title is Your Pain is My Joy. 352 pages, releasing simultaneously in hardcover, ebook, and audiobook. Written from his current cell at Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility, the Billboard announcement confirmed the publisher, the date, and the distribution structure. This is real. It is locked in. According to early promotional materials, the book includes new claims about the death of Tupac Shakur, new details on the internal history of Death Row Records, new commentary on West Coast-era conflicts, and Suge's personal account of events that the industry has been telling its own version of for nearly 30 years. He has been building toward this on his prison podcast, Collect Calls with Suge Knight, since 2023, using the platform to weigh in on major hip-hop stories from behind the wall and to signal that he has been sitting on his version of history the entire time. That is the release date that has the rap industry moving different. Not a prison walk? A book. The people who have the most reason to be uncomfortable are not the fans. They are the artists, executives, producers, and old associates who lived through the death row era and whose conduct from that period has never been fully put on the record by the person who watched all of it from the inside. If Suge goes on the record about Tupac's final months, about the internal money flows at the label, about agreements and conflicts and decisions that shaped the entire 1990s West Coast hip-hop movement, that content is going to get quoted, referenced, and debated for years after August 4th. A Suge Knight who stays in prison and publishes 352 pages of history is in some ways more dangerous to the current industry than a Suge Knight who walks out of a San Diego facility at 61. Because the book is going to outlast every news cycle, and once August 4th hits, the version of that era that the industry has been comfortable with is not going to survive it. That is the release date that actually shook the rappers, not what the streets were saying. The book. What do you think is in those 352 pages that has people moving? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for every update as August gets closer.